Hi, Jaclyn Foster.
Hello, Ann Pearson.
Jaclyn, is it true that freelance paralegals are just paralegals who can't get real jobs?
That is such a great question. I
I
can
have to ask.
yeah, I can absolutely understand where that question could come into some paralegals' minds, especially in the world we live in today. And the funny thing, and how I'm going to answer it, is by starting by saying yes, a lot of paralegals do start freelancing because they have been laid off, because they, for personal reasons, need a remote position and they cannot find them, or they're going to job interview after job interview after job interview, and they're just not getting the job. So they do feel a little bit stuck, and I need to make money fast, and I'm going to try my hand at freelancing. And that's where I always like to answer those types of misconceptions and questions by saying you're not wrong when you say that. A lot of freelancers do because they cannot get real quote unquote jobs. But the thing is that once they do start freelancing, and I would say probably about 60% of my course members that have taken my roadmap and have started their own freelance businesses will be pleasantly surprised and shocked at how much they were missing out on once they've done it. And their whole perception at that point immediately changes, where they're no longer looking at freelancing as a get by quick scheme to get them to the next job or get them until they can find a job. They stay there because suddenly they're making double the money that they've ever made in firm. They have good work-life balance. And most importantly, going to the real job question, they now feel like they have a professional authority within the industry, being a business owner and positioning themselves as such authority.
I like that. All right. Well, so how did you become a freelance paralegal?
Yeah, so actually, just like you said, paralegals that can't find real jobs. In 2018, had a baby on the way. I was a paralegal in firm for about 5 years prior to that. Very general litigation, some transactional. I was all over the place, jack of all trades, master of none, paralegal. And when I moved to Wisconsin for love, I live in a tiny area and there's not much opportunity here. They always say people come to rural Wisconsin to find opportunity and then they end up not finding that and then just staying for the cheese curds. And that's absolutely true where I live. I mean, the closest firm to me was 30 miles away. The hourly rate that she could offer was $15 per hour. Funny enough, based on your recent podcast episode you did. And $15 an hour was all I could make here, which wasn't horrible, being that I live in a very low cost living. I'm not close to a major, city or anything of that nature. However, adding on daycare costs, adding on the drive, all of those things, it just didn't make sense for me to do that. And at the end of the day, be bringing home $500 a month, $200 a month after everything. No benefits offered, those things. So really, I was stuck in a position of I can't find a job that makes sense for me to keep my child in daycare. And 2018, remote jobs in law firms were just not common, if at all. Okay. And I understood the concept of freelancing. I always had an entrepreneurial spirit in the back of my mind. So I would dabble and look around the internet on ways to make money at home and try to apply that to the legal industry. But I just didn't think that there would be any possible way that a law firm would hire little old me in little old Wisconsin with 5 years of scattered litigation experience and actually make a living doing that. But as I just said in the example prior, I needed money and I could not find work that would accommodate my life. So I ended up networking on some of the paralegal groups, and I noted a woman posting for a fully remote position, scheduling IMEs. For those of you that don't know, I always get asked this, and I'm like, I should elaborate on the acronym: independent medical examinations for an insurance defense company or insurance defense firm out in Chicago. It was a big nationwide firm, and I was working for that firm in Chicago. And I was only making $12 an hour as a contractor in that position. So less than what I could have made going in firm but balanced out at the end of the day, making $12 an hour, working 5 to 10 hours a week. My taxes were, nothing for all of that. And it worked for me. I was able to have a baby at home and take care of him in between the very simple task of scheduling these IMEs. I lived on a lot of coffee and 3 hours of sleep, but I had gotten it done. But we were still struggling. It just wasn't enough, and prices continued to increase. We're going into 2019. We're getting closer to that 2020. You know what happened in 2020. I did receive some more subcontracting roles through this agency between those years. But something shifted in me in 2020 where I decided, I'm watching this agency attract all these law firms. They've obviously proven to me that there are firms out there that are willing to hire contractors. And I noted one day they accidentally emailed all of their contractors working in the agency and they failed to blind copy them. So I got a little bit of an insight as to how many contractors were actually working for this firm. And I noted maybe like 50 or 60 individuals, and they weren't all legal. Some were just general virtual assistants. And a light bulb just went off in me. And I'll save all the details of how I finally gained that courage, pushed through my imposter syndrome and fears of putting myself out there and allowing people to see me trying to get business on my own. I just pushed through and I established my own freelancing business in March of 2020. And it was perfect timing. It truly was. The pandemic threw everybody home. Law firms were laying people off left and right, putting them on furloughs, and their people were leaving them. They needed support. So we did, gain traction very quickly. I think the pandemic had a lot of help in that, but good to know that it has not gone anywhere as far as this theme of attorneys outsourcing work is just continuing to grow every year. And I was able to charge my own rates. Suddenly, little old me in little old Wisconsin that could only make $15 per hour here was charging $50 per hour for law firms.
Wow.
And I was doing work I actually enjoyed doing. I was working in personal injury. I was working in some criminal. I got to do some big motions in federal court out in California. It was so amazing to be able to broaden my paralegal passion again. And as we continued to grow and develop, and I kept getting more and more clients, that entrepreneurial bug was just growing inside of me where I didn't want to turn it off. I wanted to keep growing. And that's when I started bringing other paralegals into the business, and I formed what became a paralegal agency. So that whole story segues all the way back to your original question. We freelance because we can't get real jobs, but then we find success we couldn't have imagined even possible while we were there. It was like we were forced into going down this avenue, but then having the light bulb moment of everybody should know of this opportunity within the paralegal career.
Now I understand why you have the course that you do.
Yeah.
Because you probably wished back then in 2020 or even 2018 when you were in the contract side of it, that somebody had something out there. So for those of you who don't know, Jaclyn Foster has a course that she teaches people who want to be freelance paralegals how to be able to do that. And so what's that called, Jaclyn? I forgot.
My signature course is the Freelance Paralegal Roadmap.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
And so you also have, what brought my attention to you, I have to say initially, was that you had or have this online marketplace that I thought was just brilliant, because it's kind of like a legalmatch.com, that matches attorneys with freelance paralegals, but you're not charging them these huge fees. And so tell me what that is. It's kind of like an online system where attorneys can find freelance paralegals.
So that's exactly why I stopped my story right where I stopped it and just sort of trickled into the agency route. Now what I do in my business and in my work every single day is a twofold. The agency is still, of course, running. We've had that for 4 years, and that's not just something you shut down overnight. We have stopped advertising and marketing that agency, but the referrals still come in, the social media content marketing is still doing its job, and we're just not quite ready to shut that down completely yet. However, I am merging my career path into my true passion, which, looking back to little old me in little old Wisconsin, is to help paralegals that find themselves in a situation like that, or in a similar situation like that, for whatever reason, their careers in a law firm are just not sustainable any longer in their lives. Financial reasons, personal reasons, complete burnout reasons, to be honest, tired of the 9 to 5, tired of the commute, what have you, or they're just needing some solid career advancement that their firms are not offering them. And it is turning back into an employer market where the employees are at the mercy of the employers again, as far as it relates to getting jobs. It's a very competitive market right now. And so that's my long way of sort of segueing into the new business that has been born in 2024. And it's a twofold business. So you mentioned my freelance paralegal roadmap course. I have been coaching paralegals since 2021 in a very formal way. I've launched little mini courses here and there, and we've done that. It was my passion project and something I did to be able to connect with paralegals all over for the purposes of making it easier to staff my agency. Didn't realize I would find such a for it. And I really sat down in 2023, end of 2023. We had a big year in 2022. Going into 2023, I wanted to reevaluate what direction, my business is continuing to scale. And so pairing my freelance paralegal roadmap course, there's still this gap. Obviously, I can teach paralegals to market properly, to build very scalable businesses that are aligned with who they want to serve, with what their passions are in their career, setting those right services, setting those right prices to make it all come together. But there's still a gap in the market to have a platform that makes it very seamless for them to begin and get out of their 9 to 5 if that's what they so desire, because it does take a couple of months to really get your traction going in your business. And I know those paralegals that want to do that. They can't just, I was starting from ground zero. I was making $12 an hour. Like, anything I did was up from there, where I realized a lot of paralegals have a difficult time leaving that $70,000 paying job or what have you. And I decided to take my huge network of law firms, because we've been nationwide for 4 years, my law firms out across the United States, my huge network of paralegals. And I thought, if I'm the only one working between these two networks to connect, how is that serving the industry in the best way? Because eventually, I can only do so much and only connect so many paralegals, and I have to take a fee as a result. And from, the hourly rate, make paralegals make less money when they come into the freelance space, just like I did. And I had to make $12 an hour to get that gig. And I'm like, let's eliminate me and create a platform where they can just connect, easily, seamlessly connect. And originally, when I was making this platform, I was going to operate it very similar to Upwork. So the contractor comes in, they have the ability to bid on jobs and say, hey, I'm available for XYZ work with the attorney. And then they transact within the platform, and the platform takes a percentage of commission. And I had this light bulb moment where I was like, why? I'm still doing what I want to eliminate. I want paralegals to be able to jump into freelancing, command amazing rates, and just take off with it seamlessly, instead of coming in, making $20 an hour, $30 an hour, what have you, after you take all those transaction fees. So I've completely eliminated the concept of that. We do not get involved or in the way with the transactions for the paralegals, and they're able to charge their rate, and they can make $5,000 from clients on a platform. They can make $10,000 from clients they meet on the platform, and still only pay less than $10 a month to be there. Wow. And it was like, wow, my two businesses, my passion for coaching, and now I'm also providing an exceptional service for paralegals to really connect the two and make freelancing and their dreams an absolute reality.
I love that you do that because now that I think about it, if you had gone the Upwork or Fiverr kind of route, you would just have a situation where attorneys are just going to hire the cheapest one, right? When you go up to Upwork and you want somebody to do a PowerPoint for you or a brochure, you're always looking at, for as little as $25 or something like that. And so a lot of them probably would go with the cheapest one.
Yes, exactly. And also something unique about freelance paralegals, and why I added that USA on the end of it, we are not allowing overseas for anybody coming into the platform. It is very much USA based, because that's exactly what happens on Upwork. Even in the legal space, they need a summarization done, and you have somebody bidding $12 an hour for this job. How can you go in and bid your $50, $60, $70 per hour and even consider being competitive there? It just doesn't work for legal. And like you had said a bit ago, when I was first starting, I wished so badly that there was something out there on both sides, the education and teaching me how to build a profitable business for legal specifically, because lawyers and attorneys and the legal industry is its own animal. It is not like any other industry, and it just doesn't totally translate that information. And that's what I find the difficulty in Upwork for paralegals. Yes, they will find work on there, but it's not quality relationships and long-term build. It just isn't legal geared, and there's millions of random people all over the platform. So yes, it gets a very clouded, very cluttered, and we have singulared that into paralegals, legal assistants, and legal professionals alike, offering freelance services to lawyers and law firms in the United States only.
I like that. We could have a whole other episode about overseas virtual legal assistants. We won't get into that for this particular one. But so one of the things that I would love to know, especially because I started out with that question of, is it true, that freelance paralegals are just paralegals who can't find jobs? Because I think there are a lot of misconceptions. I'll be honest, after having worked only in big law firms for my entire career, when I was there and I would hear somebody was like a contract paralegal or freelance, they weren't, obviously, because we didn't have the technology back then that we do now. But I even probably thought that myself, like, oh, who's that person? And I think that there are probably several misconceptions. What would you say would be, if you can narrow it down to the top 2 or 3 misconceptions, besides the fact that you just can't find a job?
Yeah, and I think everything you just said, that's totally a normal assumption, because that it's not a real job, it just is what it is. And it stems to the 3 main misconceptions, 2 or 3, I might combine them a little bit here. But the core of the misconceptions, which number 1 is that there is no stability in freelancing. And that's why we don't look at it as a real job. And it's just a here and there and everywhere, and we might get a project or we might get a case, is that people don't believe in the potential of being stable within the freelancing space. Now, there's obviously strategy involved that comes with building that stability, just like there is any business. But what I like to do to demystify that misconception that it cannot be stable is look at a law firm. Attorneys in a law firm, say a solo law firm, they're required to bring in clients month over month over month to keep their business stable. The very person you work for is a business owner. That's where I don't think paralegals are recognizing that even though they're employed, somebody owns that business and somebody is working to make it stable. Now, the nice thing is that as freelance paralegals, you build the connection with the lawyer that's doing really well and continuously bringing in new clientele every month. You're going to stay long term. It's not just when the case is over, you're done. So you build that long-term relationship with them, and that's how you build up that stability. And it's pretty typical now out in the freelance space to see paralegals requiring that are going an hourly rate. They're not doing packages or flat fees and I shouldn't say packages. Let me back up and say flat fees. Some will do flat fees per project most will do hourly, and they will sell packages of hours that have expiration dates on them. So it's really, really common for attorneys to engage freelance paralegals anywhere from 5 to 20 hours per week. And you charge those packages up front, use them or lose them within the month. And that's how you're building that ongoing clientele. And you get 3 clients at 10 hours a week, you're still making more, very much possible to be making more than you do in firm. And all it takes is 3 clients at 10 hours a week. So that's where I think people just can't believe in the stability, because then I get one more thing where there's still a misconception that working remotely for law firms is scarce, which it very much is going back to that. More and more attorneys are bringing their employees back, and your bigger firms, especially in the AM law space. But a lot of attorneys are still at least leaning into the hybrid role. Further, during the pandemic, attorneys had been forced to leverage contractors because they could not afford to keep full-time people on. They slowed down themselves. That when they did that, they had this light bulb moment of saying, wow, I know I did this as a quick fix to get me through this pandemic, but that was a game changer on my profitability in my firm. Like, I suddenly have a different ROI. My paralegal is charging me a third or half of what I'm billing them out at, and that's my only fee. I don't have taxes. I don't have benefits. I don't have those things. And they had this huge light bulb moment of, this is really beneficial for my business. So that's where the industry is getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and more lucrative and stable for paralegals to start entering. And so that was, I know I said I was going to give you 2 or 3. I think I gave you 2 or 3 in that long explanation around stability. And attorneys aren't, it comes down to, is freelancing stable? Yes, it is. It can very much be stable, and is. And I'm not the only living proof of that. Is it lucrative? Are you able to actually charge those rates that are going to make up for the taxes and the lack of benefits? I just did a video explaining how even you going out and having your own business buy you private healthcare and using that as a write-off, you'll still make more in a lot of areas that are paying paralegals way too little within the location. And then 3, are attorneys even willing to hire freelance paralegals? And is that market scarce? I am the one to come here and say, absolutely not. I've built a multiple 6-figure business agency because of how many attorneys keep coming to just me. And there's plenty of me's out there doing the same thing.
Well, one of the questions that I've always had, not always, but particularly recently, I've seen posts in paralegal groups, Facebook paralegal groups, from brand new paralegals. So I do have a little bit of a concern about that, in that they literally have just graduated from school, can't find a job, and they are going to go be a freelance paralegal. And I'd like to hear your opinion on that, because to me, it seems like you have to have had at least a couple of years, or hopefully maybe more, like 5 years at least, working in a law firm before you can go out and not only learn how to be a paralegal, but also start your own paralegal business, and where are you going to get the training from, all of that. Like, you can show them how to be a freelance paralegal and own a freelance paralegal business. I can train them how to do litigation work and stuff, but I think anyways, that most attorneys, if they are going to hire a freelance paralegal, would want somebody who can just start doing the work and not have to explain to them what a deposition summary is for, or how to prepare a trial notebook.
Yes, absolutely. No, you are spot on with that. So this is what I teach. I do have a few paralegals, a handful of paralegals actually, in my roadmap course. And we had a real talk. They reached out to me before they purchased it and asked me, is this something I can do? I just graduated and I can't find a job. And I have a real conversation. And this is what I say to those paralegals or that just finished college and have 0 experience in law firm. It's the exact same thing I teach the paralegal that has 10, 15, 20 years of experience. Whatever it is that you're selling, you need to be very niched, focused, and very experienced and confident in what that is. So that being said, there is a huge need. I have several clients. It's becoming almost, and I work with a lot of law firm consultants. We are close. saying that, executive assistants, legal assistants, virtual assistants are starting to be more common, intake specialists for law firms. So what I ask that paralegal every single time is, what is more important to you? Do you want to work remotely and own your own business, or do you want to gain experience as a paralegal? Because coming fresh out of college, you really can't have both to its full potential. You can either jump in and start offering legal virtual assistants. And it's not necessarily that you're doing really any legal tasks. You might be helping with calendaring or doing, template notices of representation, very minor detail stuff. But you have that legal education, which stands you out from the other virtual assistants out there that have no legal experience. So you can really brand yourself in the virtual assistant space, specifically targeting law firms without having that law firm experience. But if you want to offer paralegal services in general, you want to generalize it as delegated. I'll do deposition summaries. I will draft discovery. I'll draft motions. I'll do all the things. You really do have to have the in-firm experience. Now, I do know there's some other paralegals out there that'll coach on, do you really need to be in-firm to gain experience, or can you gain experience remotely? And that's probably a topic for your expertise to say as far as it relates to education of paralegals in the firm. But me saying that, when we're looking at the business side of things, you can jump into that, but you're not going to be able to offer those services. And I can 100% tell you, attorneys are not going to hire a contractor that they have to train intensely. You build relationships with your attorneys. You come in as a legal virtual assistant, and they might start handing off more work to you. For instance, when I worked at that work comp firm, I had no work comp experience whatsoever. That was one practice area amongst like trademarks and things like that I never, ever touched. And I had to Google what an IME was before I had my interview with the agency. But it wasn't difficult
That's
work.
great advice for people. To pay attention to that. Just Google it.
They knew that. I didn't lie. Like I've been seeing lately, it's this epidemic of people lying on their resumes to get jobs. But it was, IMEs is very simple. You're scheduling, you're working with the doctor's offices, you're filling out, sheets and stuff. And they got really behind in their motion drafting department. They had little departments for everything they did. And I remember the paralegal overseeing me and that asked if I wanted to, if I had the free time to take on some pleadings. I'm like, yeah, I would love to. Like, obviously, I've never drafted anything for work comp, but I'd love to take a stab at it. You're paying me $12 an hour to do it. It's like, no, well, they're not. They're probably paying the agency 40 or 30 at the time. But that, and I got a little bit more experience in that practice area. So again, this is definitely your zone of genius on the education and development of paralegals. If they wanted to go out and offer virtual assistant services and develop themselves on the side through taking courses like what you offer, the boot camp, going to different continuing education programs, and then building the relationship with the attorney that they say, hey, you want to take a stab at a set of interrogatories? Sure, I'll take a stab at it. That might be possible, but you're going to get that paralegal experience a lot slower than if you just fight down, get in that firm, get that entry level position, put in your five years of experience, and then you can go freelance. So again, it depends on what's more important to you at the time you make the decision out of school.
That's really good advice. Really good advice. Good. All right. Well, I just want one other thing I think that's important that I would want the viewers and on the podcast, the listeners, to hear is you're a success story. I'm sure there are, for every success story of yours, there are 5 failures, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of people watching would say, well, you are once in a lifetime success story, Jaclyn. I wouldn't be able to do it. Do you have any other people, and you don't have to call them out by name if you don't want to, but that have had similar success to you?
Yeah, actually, I would love to call one out by name, and I know she would be very happy for me to. We've maintained a very close relationship over the years, professional relationship. Miss Heather Pickett is one of my most proudest success stories, my most proud success stories that I could tell. She had started her business, I think it was late 2020, early 2021. She had already had a start to her business and we connected. She took my course in 2021, which it's way more improved now. I only had a year of success under my belt before I started dabbling in course creation. And from the years 2021 to the end of 2023, she has gone on from freelancing on her own, offering bankruptcy services to attorneys, to building a paralegal agency, a professional paralegal company called Propel Paralegal Services, to 20 employees between senior bankruptcy paralegals, estate planning paralegals, virtual assistants, legal assistants. She's this true CEO, marketing assistants, all those things. She's gone on to build a really, really successful company. And she is not my only one that I could speak on. I connect with paralegals that I'd never taken my course, and they went on to be very successful. I have several course members that continue to be successful. They had no intention of doing the agency route. They just wanted to be busy full time with their own freelancing services, and that's what they've accomplished. And most recently, I received my first course completer. And, we started the course in January. She was the first one to complete it. Last month, I got the email from her, and it's self-paced. So, they take it on their own time. But she was my very first one. She emailed me at the beginning of February and told me that, the course went really well. And she's like, I don't know if this is a coincidence. I doubt it, with a wink. But she's like, I just signed my first 2 ideal clients and it happened. I couldn't believe it happened so quickly. And that's what I find I'm actually trying on my podcast, to get more paralegals that are successfully freelancing to come have coffee chats with me, to give people proof that it's not just me. I didn't have a one-time success. And what I'll end that with is, believe me, I even thought that it was a fluke that I was successful. I still sometimes get in my own head and think, oh, this is just a fluke. It's not here to stay. And I remember my husband telling me, Jaclyn, at what point, at what year are you going to actually believe that you built something sustainable and successful? And I'm like, yeah, depends on the day and how tired I am. And it's hard to believe, because this industry, this paralegal field, has so far to go in evolution still. You're a part of that, in the things you put out there to try to, I don't even want to use the word raise awareness, change the view of the paralegal as a profession. And we started with that. I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole here. I promised you I wouldn't do that, and I'm very known for doing that. But we started with getting that distinctive name, that distinctive title, paralegal, from the legal assistant, and really having that decided. But we haven't fully caught up to that reality yet. And it's important that more paralegals step into the role of understanding how much ability they truly have, and not, oh, it was a fluke that one got successful. It was a fluke. Start seeing the trend. Paralegals are built to be successful. And yep, there are paralegals that take my course that give up. They decide it's not for them. They don't want to put in any work or consistency, and they don't get clients. But if you follow a proven path, I guarantee you will be successful.
That brings me back to where I was initially going with this, was thinking this is for your course, because mine is for new litigation paralegals, like in the first 5 years. But what I didn't realize is that it seems like yours would be also good for maybe the paralegal who's been out there freelancing for 5, 6, 7 years and just is barely getting by, and now starting to wonder, gosh, do I just need to go get a quote real job? Because I just can't make this work. I can't get enough clients to keep me busy, or,
Yep, absolutely. And
okay.
that is exactly what it is. Because a lot of times, again, because going back to the original theme of this conversation of the misconceptions around freelancing, people have those conceptions even when they start freelancing. Paralegals still have that in the back of their mind, like, this isn't a real thing, it's just a thing. And so they side hustle a little bit and they maybe make one post on LinkedIn and then they expect things to just take off, or maybe they get a client and they don't treat it like a business because that's not how they've viewed it for whatever reason. They've never viewed it as being a business owner and owning a professional paralegal company or a professional paralegal freelancing service. And they jump into it just half ASSing it, and so absolutely, I do have paralegals, some that have freelanced for 2 years, like talking back to Heather, she had already started her business and gotten the traction. And then she jumped into my course just to make sure that everything was aligning for her scalability and going forward and making this happen a lot quicker than it maybe would take without following the proper map, right? The proper roadmap and taking different turns here and there and everywhere to end up at the same result.
Yeah, I would look at it like, because I'm always telling paralegals, you should always invest in your career, right? Taking courses to advance your career, whether it's my litigation boot camp or e-discovery, whatever it is, that you should constantly be doing that. And so me as a business owner, I'm constantly taking courses that will help me and programs, learning about how to shoot better video, how to record better podcasts, how to make better courses. And so it would be natural that you could learn how to be a better freelance paralegal.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. And that's a gap I felt in the market because there might be other information out there, but I'm telling you, I wish I had a course when I started. I'd piecemealed everything from general freelance coaches and virtual assistant coaches. And I still do because I don't have anybody, up there telling me down here, this is what you need to do. So my coaching and my courses are very much based on my trial and error, a lot of mistakes I made along the way, what worked, what didn't work, the key things to focus on, and how to make it uniquely your own within that roadmap.
I like that. All right. So I think along those lines, don't you have something coming up like a paralegal mastermind to give them just a little bit of information to get them started in their journey?
I do. I have decided to create a 1-day live event specifically focusing on marketing. So it's my freelance paralegal marketing mastermind. We are completely diving into marketing, everything marketing in freelance. Now, my roadmap course, just to sort of make the differentiation, my roadmap course is taking you through an 8-module roadmap of building a very sustainable business. We do have marketing within it, but not as broad. In my roadmap course, I focus my paralegal specifically on content marketing and leveraging LinkedIn. I've decided to make a one-time live event, which will be coming up here on April 8th. And it goes from 10 to 2 Central Time. Of course, if you can't make it live, I know a lot of paralegals, you have full-time jobs, you can't make it live, the replay and the workbook will be provided when it's over. So we're going to be running through deep dive into content marketing and social media, building a following and learning how to share like the expertise and start dabbling into going down the articles and writing articles, creating videos, the content publishing, potentially creating your own podcasts and other media, and also showing you how to leverage AI to help you with it all and be time smart about it. We're going to run through networking and direct outreach to law firms. We're going to get you started with being featured as a guest on other podcasts and other in-person and live events, even virtual live events, how to pitch that, how to focus your method or your message, excuse me. And then most importantly, probably, because I know it's a burning question for a lot of paralegals, is the referral marketing beyond just natural referrals, like truly creating a referral incentivization for your business, as well as diving into the paid advertising. Because we're going to run through like the paid per click, the ads, the hiring marketers, the appointment setters, all those things that come with marketing. And through all of that, really giving paralegals a true solid marketing strategy for their business so they're not wasting time doing things that aren't going to move the needle or aren't going to generate actual results and convert their connections, their leads into paying clients. So I'm really, really excited about this course. I've been asked so many times to do a really big deep dive into marketing, and it's finally here, and it is $29.99.
Whoa.
But Ann, for your listeners, I am going to give them a discount code. So anybody listening to this podcast and part of Ann's following or on the YouTube channel, if you type in the code bootcamp at checkout, you'll get a 10% off code. So come join us. It's going to be a really fun event, and you can ask questions in real time, and we'll have a lot of fun.
Okay, so just so I get this correctly, was that $2,999 or $29.99?
$29.99.
And you're giving my listeners 10% off of that?
Yep. You have no reason not to join. It is truly the marketing strategies I've used to expedite the growth of my company into multiple six figures in 3 years, in under 3 years. Everything that I've learned, what works, what doesn't work about marketing. Again, and this is bringing it full circle to the pricing point. It's a live event. You're not getting one-on-one with me. We're in a Zoom meeting, and I'll be teaching the paralegals about marketing. And I am very, very excited to just help demystify and prove to paralegals, like, we make marketing seem so much harder than it is, especially in this industry. It's very, very simple. So
Yeah,
I'm ready
and
to
I have-
demystify that.
I would add to that. It's so funny that you say that, because I felt the same way, as a new business owner. But as a paralegal, I think your paralegal skills and your abilities already, somehow you can pivot pretty easily. And you put anything into a checklist for me, and I'm done. I got it. So okay. So let me back up. So it's 3 hours. 3 hours for $30.
4 hours for $30, and you will walk away with a custom marketing strategy that you've created through the course, through the event. So it's going to be very much worth your $29.99 plus your 10% discount code to come and join us. And I know, again, I can't accommodate all the time zones, and I have kids and I can't do weekends. So if you can't attend live, you'll still get that replay. Still get that workbook, so you can run through it in your own time and create your own unique marketing strategy based on, are you an introvert and extrovert? Do you want to get on camera? Do you not? What strategy do you want to put in place? It's very much customizable for your unique personality, and you'll still be successful by implementing it.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to put the link in the description. If you're watching on YouTube, it's going to be in the description. If you're listening to the podcast, it's going to be in the show notes and on the episode page. Thank you so much, Jaclyn Foster, for joining me today.
Thank you so very much, Ann. It's been a pleasure to be on your podcast and talk with you.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.